The deadline for raising the U.S. debt ceiling looms larger and larger. High-stake talks between President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are set to resume in hours from now. And it's crunch time. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, a Republican, says that he's agreed to meet President Biden in person today after what he termed a productive phone conversation on Sunday. The challenge, though, remains. The two sides remain at odds over budget cuts demanded by the Republicans as a precondition for raising the debt ceiling, a spending limit that determines how much money the government can borrow. Even as the U.S. president left Japan on Sunday, he said the proposals by Republicans who control the House of Representatives were, quote, simply unacceptable.
It's time for Republicans to accept that there is no bipartisan deal to be made solely on their partisan terms. They have to move as well. All four congressional leaders agree with me that default is not, let me say it again, default is not an option. And I expect each of these leaders, to live up to that commitment. America has never defaulted on our debt, and it never will.
The president canceled foreign visits that were due to follow the three-day G7 summit in Hiroshima to deal with the impasse over the federal debt, in exchange for support to raise the debt ceiling. Republicans are demanding budget cuts to the tune of $4.5 trillion. However, they're also seeking increased spending on the military and border security. With a one-seat Democratic majority in the Senate and Republicans in narrow control of the House, a deal has so far proven to be elusive. But what happens if the debt ceiling isn't raised at all? Well, this has never happened before, so it's not entirely clear what exactly would happen, but it would cause a major economic damage for sure. For one, the U.S. government would no longer be able to pay salaries of federal and military employees. Social Security check payments would stop. These are the payments that millions of pensioners here in the U.S. rely on. Then companies and charities that count on government funds would be in peril as well. Moreover, the U.S. government not making interest payments on its debt would technically put the country into default. A situation like this would shock the financial system, where more than $500 billion worth of U.S. debt is traded every day. A downgrade by credit rating agencies would also extend to setback to consumer confidence and a potential tipping of the economy into recession. 8 days and counting, that's the time Biden and McCarthy have. It's a countdown the world watches, and global financial markets also watch with bated breath. Okay, to get to the heart of this and make sense of this debt fiasco that we're in, Daniel Gertrude is joining us live from New Jersey. He's an American business analyst and economist. Daniel, welcome back to WION. Thank you for your time. Explain to us where we are right now and why we need to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, let's start with this. Eventually, there will be a deal because there's simply no other choice here. The alternative is complete chaos, not just in the United States, but globally. So let's take that off the table. But there is a lot of political theater going on right now. And yes, they are playing with fire because they still risk a downgrade in the United States' credit rating. So although a deal will happen at some point, and if you ask me to predict, it will be right before the last hour. That's when a deal will happen. And number two, when the deal happens, it will include more spending. And number three, both political parties will try to take credit for whatever this great new deal is. Those things are for sure in my mind.
But is the situation we're in sustainable? Do you think capping or cutting spending would now resolve the problem?
It is absolutely not sustainable. But what we don't know is, when do we get to the point of collapse? Now, people in the past would have said $30 trillion of debt, which is where we are now. There's no way we're going to be able to survive that. So now is the number 40, 50, $100 trillion? We don't know that answer. But clearly, the U.S. government cannot continue to spend money it simply doesn't have. The outcome of this is not a good one, although, again, we don't know what that'll look like, but at some point in time, there has to be some financial restraint, because without it, we just become, well, listen, we've seen it happen in countries like Greece and in some South American countries where it ends up in a hyperinflationary situation and a very bad economic situation.
Yeah, that's no good. No good at all. Daniel Giltrude, thank you so much for joining us on WION, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you.